All right, Shalom Aleichem, everybody. We're up to Daf Yud Aleph in Avodah Zarah, but we'll start from Yud Amud Beis. We start from a fellow whose name is K'tia Bar Shalom. K'tia Bar Shalom, the Gemara said he has a chelik in Olam Haba. He was one of the Sorei Roimi.
Where is it?
It's, we are, let's see, like 15 lines from the bottom of Yud Amud Beis. Okay, K'tia Bar Shalom is the first word on the line. K'tia Bar Shalom, Mai. What was the story that because of that he was zoichet to Olam Haba? Says the Gemara, there was a Caesar, a Roman Caesar that hated Jews. Wow, that's very unusual. Omar lehu lechashive, the Malchuse, he said to the important people in the kingdom, somebody has, dead skin, dead meat on his baragla, on his foot. Let's cut it off and he'll be able to live. Let's amputate his leg. Or leave it and he should live b'tzar. Amruloi. So all the advisors to the king said, make sure to cut it off, amputate him, and this way he'll live peacefully. He's not going to be b'tzar from that basar mace. Omar le'k'tia bar shalom. So referring to the Yidden, the Jews. Right? Let's annihilate the Jews. Let's cut them out. This way, I'm looking on, I have to say, the news right now. And there's so many anti-Semites. People are showing the true colors. Like they're saying, America is governed by Israel, because it was because of Israel that we attacked Iran and we endangered our soldiers. Cut out the Jews. What Bibi is dictating, we should go to war, we shouldn't go to war. Mamish, it's never, no problem. Never different, right? It's always been the same. Cut off from the Jews. This way you'll be able to live. Amrulai. So the Yoetzim said, Amrul K'ti Bar Shalom said, K'ti Bar Shalom was like Lahavdil, the Ted Cruz, yeah, like who's the advocate, or like who's the other guy who Lindsey Graham, and you have another guy, the British guy with the British accent, runs around, yeah, what's his name? The British guy with the British accent.
Chris Kirk, Charlie Kirk.
Not Charlie Kirk, this other guy.
Oh man. Who wrote the book, right?
Yeah. Like he goes to Gaza and he's like, he's a British guy with a British accent. I'm forgetting his name right now. Okay. He wrote a book,
yeah. I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. He's a warrior from Israel.
Yeah, warrior from Israel. K'ti Bar Shalom. Says the Gemara, K'ti Bar Shalom. He says, make sure you're not going to be able to do what you're trying to do, to annihilate them, because they're scattered all over the world. Yeah?
They're not all under your rule.
They're not all under one place, under your rule. Very good. Yeah. Oh, Mo, just in time for this reason, yeah? Ooh, huh? Gabe is here too? Manishma, Gabe? Look at that. And Gabe's brother. One second, what's the other son's name? Isaac, come on. Shalom Aleichem.
Brother, this is Rabbi Gold, the guy you see on the video.
I'm so glad you're
world
here.
Famous.
All right, now you get to see what your dad does with his shiur. He's asking kashas, he's involved. Come on, let's go. Yeah. Doesn't look right? Doesn't look like a healthy drink, this blue, right? Blue in a cup. It looks like I'm drinking like some chlorine.
Medicine.
Yeah.
It's better than red.
Better than red, okay. Doctor, thank you. Anyway, the Gemara says, okay, we're talking about a story of this guy. Man, who's this British guy now? It's like killing me.
Douglas Murray.
What?
Douglas Murray?
Douglas Murray, that's good. Yeah, this non-Jewish guy who's advocating a lot of anti-Semitism. I hope you Isaac, yeah? There's a lot of anti-Semitism going on right now. I was listening to the podcast yesterday. They're bashing America, Donald Trump, for intervening and acting on behalf of Israel. Just cut off Israel. What are you endangering American troops for? Okay.
Tucker, this Chelata, is really filled, this Tucker,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So K'ti Bar Shalom he is an advocate for the Jews. He says, Chodom, first reason why you shouldn't do that is because nobody's under your rule. We're like 10 lines in the bottom of Daf Yomi Beis. The Chsiv, it says, 10 lines in the bottom around, 12 lines. The Chsiv, Ki ka'arba ruchas hashemayim parasti eschem. I scattered the Jews, Hashem says, Nevuah Zechariah, I scattered the Jews to the four corners of the globe. Maiko Amar. What does it mean, four corners? If he says he means Ba'ar Baruchas Hashemayim, literally the four corners of the world. Hi, Ka'ar Baruchas. What does he like the four corners? Le'ar Baruchas. If you're talking about the scattered nature of Klal Yisrael all over the world, it should have been Le'ar Baruchas, the four corners. So what is it? Ka'ar baruchas, like the four corners. Just like the world cannot exist without wind. The world cannot exist without Israel, without the Jewish people.
How does Bi'ar demonstrate that?
So Ka'ar baruchas is just like the four ruchas. Shalom, hey, pull over your chair. Just like the four ruchas, the world cannot exist without the four ruchas. So too. So also in Tainus?
I think so.
There we go. Sonny Sivchai is a big Talmud Chuchem. All right.
It's very easy to know when
Please,
you know
everybody,
Talmud
if you know some Gemara somewhere in Shas that matches it up, please don't be shy. V'oid karulach malchus katia. If you cut out the Jews like a leg that needs to be amputated, then it's good. They're going to call you a malchus katia. They're going to call you a malchus that's cut off, that's missing something. It's missing part of its inhabitants. Amar lei meimeshapaka amar. They said, the cases said, you know what? You're right. We're not going to annihilate. We're not going to kill out the Jews. Miu, but the law is called the Zochi Lamalka. Anyone who beats the king in an argument, right, wins over the king, Shadu Lelakamunya Chalila. They put him in a house full of soil and they bury him alive. That's the oynish for somebody who wins the king in an argument. So since he won the Roman Caesar in an argument, right, and he claimed that if you cut out the Jews, if you kill all the Jews, then you're taking away the wind of the world, right? The world won't be able to exist without the Jews. And number two, you'll never be able to do it. Number three, he said they'll call you a Malchus Katia. So he beat the Jews he beat the king in an argument. So he says,
The king
"What?"
can take that position. The king just inquire.
It's a good point. Good point. It sounds like the king was leaning to it. So here he says that Maral points out. Let's see, because of your kash, I'm looking at the bottom of the art scroll there. It says when the melech is not shoyel ba'atzasai, and the guy speaks up against the Ratzon HaMelech, then that's a problem. I guess that was the Ratzon. The Melech was leaning toward it. So the Gemara says they wanted to kill him. The Melech says you have to be killed because you won me in an argument, or I guess you spoke up without permission, and you advised me keneged my own will. So when they took this fellow K'tia Bar Shalom to this place where they were going to kill him, bury him alive, so on his way, this I guess noble woman, Roman. Thank you, Reb Shaul. Lashon Saginor. What does that mean? She wasn't such a noble woman.
That's the opposite, a euphemism.
A euphemism.
This is the expression.
So she said to these.
No, but Pam, over there in Rome, this mitzvah was noble.
She was a noble woman, and
Because this mitzvah was noble mitzvah over there. She was. They used to be very wealthy, those women.
We'll see. Actually, she was okay. Let's see.
That's how she became noble.
Okay.
So he says, "Vayle le'ilfa the ozla b'loy michsa." Woe is to the ship that goes without paying taxes. She meant to tell him, it was like an analogy. She said, woe to you. Oh, Nathan is here. Came just in time for this analogy. Let's go. Come on, pull up a Gemara. It says, woe to you that you're going to the next world and you haven't paid your taxes. What does that mean? That you don't have... Here, take a chair. Come on. A chair. What's the taxes he's referring to? Says, you don't have a Brit Milah, you don't have a bris. You don't have a bris.
I have something good, I share it with the doctor.
What happened?
It's not for public.
Consumption?
Not for public.
Okay, we turn off the mic. What do we do?
There's young kids there.
Okay,
Has
beseder.
an intimate knowledge.
Okay, in other words, you didn't have a bris milah, so you're not going to get to Olam Haba. He says, Nokat al Reisha de Urlase. So K'tia, I guess this fellow tripped himself on his way to the killer house where they're going to bury him alive, and he made sure to fall on some device, some rock, some piece of metal that cut off, a flintstone that cut off his arla. And he was mal himself. Mamish, minutes before, they killed him. Because he wanted to be Zaycha to Olam Haba. He was an advocate for the Jews. So, by the way, Tosfos already asks, big discussion in Achreinim. First of all, a goy that's mal himself, a goy that does a bris milah is not a good bris milah. So some want to say it's milosoi V'Yisraelosai boin ke'echad. It comes at the same time. You need priya. Also, they ask, very good kasher Rab Shol. They need priya. How is that even a good? How's it even a good mila? Okay, they talk about it, but it seems like it worked. But Tosfos wants to know that earlier Antoninus asked Rebbe if he's going to get a chelik in Olam Haba, and Rebbe said yes. We learned that the other day, and Rebbe said from a pasuk that it says that the kings of Esav, doesn't say all the kings. Some emperors are exceptions to the rule, and he's going to get Olam Haba. Tosfos says, to what happened to his bris milah? Antoninus didn't have a bris milah, so how could he have it? And here Ketiyah Bar Shalom had to have a bris milah before he died, so he could be Zoich to Olam Haba. So Tosfos says, brings another Yerushalmi and Megillah, that actually Antoninus did mal himself.
It was Megayer. It was Megayer before he
It was Megayer, yeah?
Yes.
I don't know if he's Megayer. It doesn't. Oh, 1 second. Yeah, Igayer Antoninus. Last 2 words in Tosfos. Some say it was Megayer. Thank you, doctor. Wow.
תקרא 37.
37?
תקרא משהו לא נורמלי.
Not there yet.
כן, כי תהיה זכה באותה שעה ששרתה עליו רוח הקודש. That's why he figured it out. 37.
Unbelievable. Okay, beautiful. So the Gemara says he was mal himself. He fell on a piece of rock or a flintstone. He was mal himself. Omar, he said, Yahavis michsi, I paid my taxes. In other words, I was mal myself. Chalfis the ivris. Now I can leave Olam Hazeh and I can merit Olam Haba. Ki kashadele, when they threw him into this house that was designated to bury people alive, Omar, he said, the last words he said were, Kol nichsoi, all my assets, li Rabbi Akiva v'chaveirav. I want Rabbi Akiva and my friends to be zoichet. Oh, I guess he was a wealthy man. Rabbi Akiva and his friends. So Yotzer Rabbi Akiva v'darash. Rabbi Akiva heard what Ketiyah Bar Shalom said. He dashed and he says,
חבריו של רבי עקיבא, לא חבריו שלו.
Chaverav Shel Rabbi Akiva, yes. V'hoisel la'Aaron u'lebanov. It says that the lechem upon him should be for Aaron and his sons. And we darshan, the fact that Torah says la'Aaron u'lebanov, mechza la'Aaron, half of it goes to Aaron, u'mechza la'lebanov, and half of it goes to his kids. Which means since the Torah singles out Aaron over his children, so Aaron gets half and his other sons, right, they get the other half. That's how it's divided. So Rabbi Akiva said, since Ketiyah Bar Shalom said, Rabbi Akiva v'chaveirav, so you take all of his assets and you give a half, 50% to Rabbi Akiva because he singled them out, just like Aaron is singled out, but lechem upon him, he gets half, and the other friends, his friends, get the other half. Yotzes a Baskel v'amro. A Baskel came out and said, imagine a Baskel, Ketiyah Bar Shalom, mezumon l'chaye olam haba. He's going into olam haba without gehenim, without any din v'cheshbon. Bocho Rebbe v'omar. Yesh koin olam b'shoachas v'yesh koin olam b'kavim. Rebbe cried, and he said, he was crying, and he said, imagine, Ketiyah Bar Shalom, the way the Maharsha explains this Gemara, Maharsha says, Rebbe cried and he said, imagine if Ketiyah Bar Shalom would have merited to stay alive longer. If he was zoich in olam haba in 1 second like that, imagine how much more, how much higher he could have gone had he stayed in this world and done more mitzvahs with Mesiras Nefesh. That was the bechiyah that Rebbe cried. But here you have a lashon. The Baskel's lashon was mezuman l'chay olam haba. I once heard from a big speaker in Eretz Yisrael. I can't remember his name, but he said Rav Rosenblum. Thank you. On Bnei Barak, he said that there are the Magid, because you heard me say it months ago. I said it over once. I'm sure he remembers. He said that there are 3 ways to say somebody gets olam haba. There is a ben olam haba, there's a chelik olam haba, and there's mezuman l'chay olam haba. What's the difference between chelik olam haba, right? The Mishnah Sanhedrin, the last parak, chelik, and then you have a ben olam haba, right? Shomer Shabbos is a ben olam haba. Ezo ben olam haba, the Gemara asked. Right now you have mezuman. What's the difference? So he said from some rabbi in Borough Park, such beautiful words. He said it's like when you travel to a different country, right? So you want to get into the country, so you have 2 lines. One is for citizens, and that's the fast line, and then you have for visitors. Visitors, you have to take out the visa, you have to take out, you have to make sure, they ask you a bunch of questions. How long are you going to be here for? What are you coming here for? All these questions are asked for the visitors. So he says like this, a chelik l'olam haba is a guy who's a visitor. You have a chelik l'olam haba, yeah, you can come in a chelik, right? We ask you, we have din v'cheshbon, are you deserving to come into this country in olam haba or not? Then you have the ben olam haba. He's a citizen, right? He gets faster, right? Imagine like you come to the line, like ben olam haba, like there's no lines when you get a citizen, and you have to wait in a different country by the visitor line. Then mezuman l'chay olam haba is a guy who's VIP. He's picked up from the plane. Doesn't even wait in line. Doesn't even wait online. Says the Gemara, the Baskel came out and says, Ketib Bar Shalom is Mezuman, VIP. No Gehenim, no Din V'cheshbon, no Yisurim. Straight to Olam Haba. Lucky him. Yeah, we should all be Zayich.
In one day.
In one day.
In one day he got
In
it.
one day. In one day. It's amazing.
שעה אחת, לא one day, שעה.
A couple of hours. So they took him and they asked him the question. Yeah.
Shah means a turn.
Yeah.
Ooh, wow. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What do you say? What do you say?
No, one turn.
One turn. Because the Tzaddik says, we spoke about it many times, the Tzaddik writes that if you want to really get to the bottom, the definition of a word, you have to go back to the very first time it's mentioned in the Torah. Right? We spoke about it. Tzaddik talks about it in the terms of Kedusha, holiness. What's real holiness? First time Kedusha is mentioned in the Torah is Shabbos. Shabbos is real holiness. Shabbos brings holiness to the entire week, to the world. So that's Kedusha. He says, I have a shtickle Torah with Makam. I have my own shtickle Mapshat. What does Makam mean? Makam, the first time it's mentioned in the Torah is in the third day of creation. I'm not going to get involved in that. What is real Makam? A space. Torah says there that the Mayim moved out of its swale. Makam echad v'seirah hayabasha. Makam really is when you make a space for somebody else. You pull back. That's Makam. Constriction. That's hamakam yinachem eschem, to make a space for somebody else's pain. But that's also, here he says that Shah, the first time Shah is mentioned, we use Shah as an hour, but Shah is ve'el minchasai loy Shah, by Cain, that Hashem didn't turn to Cain's carbon. So you see that it means to turn, right? The turn of an hour. That's why it's called Shah. So Cain, here the Basel came out, Yesh Kama B'Shachas, one turn. A person can live his entire life one way, turns in a different direction, does one mitzvah, and he's Zoichet Olam Haba. Says the Gemara back there, Antoninus Sham Shil Rabbi. Antoninus served Rabbi. Adarkin, there was another Sar, another master, another very influential government official, Sham Shil Rav, served Rav. Kishochev Antoninus. When Antoninus died, he passed away. Omar Rebbe, Nisparda Chavila. The love that existed, the kesher, Chavila means a kesher, means the bond that existed between Antoninus and Rebbe was now untied, because now the Romans, the emperor, the next emperor, whoever is going to be, who's going to rule over Rome and the Jews, is going to oppress us. Kishochev Adarkin, when Adarkin died, Omar Rav, Nisparda Chavila. Rav had the same lashon when Adarkin, who he was friends with, and he was Mekusher, he felt a bond with this Sar, with this major government official that did good to the Jews. He said once he died that kesher, that bond is gone, and that's why he lamented and he mourned over that Nispar de Chavila. There's some poskim, some mafarshim say, why did Rebbe use the lashon Chavila? Chavila is interesting lashon. So doctor, you had mentioned something, I think it was yesterday maybe, or 2 days ago, about Antoninus. There's a medrash that the babies were switched.
Yeah, the mothers.
Antoninus ורבי, האימהות.
They switched it.
Switched it so because they looked for who had a oil.
So I saw somewhere where they said Chavilas b'lashon chalav, milk. The Antoninus was nursed from the milk of a Jewish mother, which is unbelievable. The Sparda Chavila, he referred to him as Chavila, Ima Shel Rebbe. So that's what the lashon Chavila. Why the lashon Chavila is very interesting, very curious. Why did Rebbe use that lashon? Okay, says the Gemara.
אבא שלו היה רבן שמעון בן גמליאל.
Rabbeinu HaKadosh, I believe so.
אבא שלו זה רבן שמעון.
You'll know
ורבן
better.
שמעון עשה לו את הברית.
Against the Romans' decree. Yeah.
אז כשהלשינו, אז אמרו לו, אז האמא של...
So that's why they switched.
אמרה להשמיע, בוא נעשה סוויץ'.
Wow, what a story. What a story. You know, these stories I heard when I was like 8 years old, and I saw it in storybooks. It's amazing to see it in the Gemara. Like, these are Gemaras right here. And the next story is just mind-blowing. Unkelis bar Kleina Mesigayer. Now, Unkelis, who was Unkelis? Unkelis, Pirush Unkelis, you know who he was? Unkelis was the nephew of Titus of Russia. You know who Titus was, Gabe, right? Titus of Russia. You know who Titus was? Who was Titus? Yeah, the Roman emperor, very good. He destroyed the second Beis HaMikdash. He destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. So his sister's son, his nephew, was Unkelis. Amazingly. And he converted. Shader Kaser Gunda D'Remoy Basrei. So the Roman Caesar sent his army to go get him. Mashchina B'Kroi. So when they arrived, Unkelis gave them an inspiring speech. Right? He told them a couple of psukim from the Torah, Igayer. And he caught them, he basically got to them, and they converted as well. How he sent another group of soldiers. So the Caesar said, don't talk to him, don't engage in conversation, because if you do, He's going to convert you. Right? When I was just in Rome, so we had with us a guy who was an expert in the Vatican and ancient Rome. His name is Roy Doliner. And he's on our film, this Shtieble. And he said, people don't realize that when the Romans, conquered, destroyed the Beis Hamikdash and conquered Eretz Yisrael, there were a lot of Romans, the people of Rome, they respected Jews and Judaism. It wasn't like they looked down on Torah. They saw the incredible value. And in fact, when Titus came to power, and we spoke about this, right? Titus who destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, so his whole reign was riddled with tragedy because he had Pompeii, Mount Vesuvius erupted, and 6 cities in Rome totally was buried under ashes. And you had the plague in Rome, the fire in Rome. And people realized that it was the God of the Jews that punished Titus in Russia for destroying the Beis Hamikdash. So people understood the incredible importance of a Jew. They really understood it. They knew it, and there were a lot of conversions taking place during that time. So it's not unique. And the fact that Onkelos was able to convert these people really fit with the culture of the time.
Still worship a Jew.
No, what is that?
They still worship a Jew.
They used to worship a Jew?
Yeah, they still worship a Jew.
Yeah, they worship a Jew. Yeah, very good. Okay. So he said, don't engage him in conversation because he's going to get to you. Let me just tell you one small thing. Uncle said, yeah, Avodah, they didn't talk to him, but he could talk to them. So he was telling them, let me just tell you one thing as you cuff me, right? You're taking me. Nifyoira nukat nura kame pifyoira. The nifyoira is holding a flame, a torch, before a pifyoira to make sure to light the way ahead. Pifyoira leduchsa duchsa legmoina lekaima kaima minokat nura kame mikame inche. So the melech, in other words, these are different government officials, different levels in the government. He says the highest level, who's going to hold a flame, a torch, for the king? Amrilei, lo yavada, the king is not going to hold a torch to his soldiers, right? That's not the derech, right? Everybody walks in front of the king with torches. The king doesn't hold a torch for anybody. Amrilahu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu nakat nur kam Yisrael. In our religion, Hashem holds the torch for his people. See, it's not like in your culture where the king sits back and everybody holds the torch and lights up the way for the king. In us, by us, the king lights up our way, walks in front of us. Hashem hoylech lifneim yoimam. Yeah, by Kriyas Yamsuf. When we left Mitzrayim, there was the Anana Eish, right? Amuda Eish, that walked in front of us. So Mamela, by us, it goes the other way around. And they were very inspired by that idea. Igayir Kulu, they all converted.
So for sure they were going.
Others,
You would argue with him, for sure. No, they're like this.
I don't think today, this speech is not going to work.
For sure.
Not going to work today, right?
For sure they were going. Yeah, בוא נעשה צודק. אנחנו נהיה...
Yeah.
סתם תארגיום, לא מאמין, כן מאמין, תביא לי הוכחות, איזה גמרא, איזה זה, איזה אצבע, באצבע הזאתי.
Reb Tzvi is Chabad. I think he's gonna. You mom it's for Yidden? Come on, let's go. Reb Shol says a Yid is even worse. Never do that. What about them?
Beisilo had such patience.
היו עושים לו עם האצבעות.
He's saying over here we have Basil.
So
He's Shamuti who? Reb Shol is Shamuti. Okay.
דרך אגב, כשיבוא משיח, הכל יהיה לפי בית שמיים.
הכל מה?
הכל יהיה לפי בית שמיים.
הכל, כן, כן, נכון, אתה צודק, אתה כבר חי בלהסיד לבוא. Okay, זוג די גמרא. Igayir Kulu, everybody converted. So the case of the Caesar didn't give up. He sent a third deployment. Do not engage him. Don't say a word to Onkelos. If you talk to him, he's gonna win you over.
Why were they trying to put him in jail?
Because he converted to Judaism, he left. Yeah, they didn't like it because he was also a very high-level official. He was the nephew of the Caesar. It was very offensive. So Gemara says, asli. So, okay, they finally cuffed him and they're about to go. Chaza mezusta de mancha apescha. Onkelos, as he's leaving the house, he sees the mezuzah on the doorway. Oisiv yidei Allah. He was able to, he managed to put his hand on it. Va'amar lehu. And he said to the soldiers, "My high, you know what I'm doing right now, right?" And now he, a typical good public speaker is able to open with a very curious line to get everybody engaged, right? He says, "You know what I'm doing right now? I'm relay emilan at. No, you tell us what you're doing." Amar lehu min hagay shel olam. The minig of the world is melech basdam yoshev mefnim v'odam shamrei sebavchutz. The minig is that when a melech basdam adam, he sits inside the chambers and he has guards all around him protecting him. Ve'ilu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but Hashem is the other way around. Avodav mibifnim. His servants are protected inside. V'hu mishamron mibechutz. And Hashem stands on the outside guarding us. Shenemar Hashem yishmar tzeischa uve'echa me'at v'adolam. And they were so inspired by that. Igayur, they're Megayur. Sulei shader basrei. And finally Caesar gave up. He didn't send anyone to get Onkelos anymore. Now the Gemara goes back to the Nevuah that Rivka got when she was pregnant. It says, Vayomer Shem Lo. She went to Shem Ve'ever, and they told her, Shnei Goyim bevitnech, you have two nations that you're pregnant with. Amar Vidim Marav. Al Tikri Goyim, don't say nations. Elogeim, Geim means giants. People who are tremendously big people are going to come out of you in the future. Which two people are going to come out of the future that are so big? Say Antoninus v'Rebbe. Antoninus, who is the Caesar of Rome, and Rebbe, who is the Nasi in Klal Yisrael. Shloi pasku mal shulchanam. Right? They never stopped having on their table loy chazeres, v'loy kishus, v'loy tznoin. These vegetables, what are the translations? Chazeres, kishus, tznoin?
Cucumber, radish.
What is that? Lettuce? Lettuce, cucumber, and radishes. I love radishes. Loy b'moisachama, v'loy b'moisagishamin. In the sun, in the summer, and not in the winter. The Amar Mar, even though it's only seasonal, very good. They had it always. They were able to import it, I guess, from faraway countries. I guess it's healthy stuff to be able to have them.
Listen, it makes sense because they add.
Yeah.
If you eat meat, you need to eat those fiber.
Yeah. So that's why you need to have these vegetables.
He was very wealthy. Now
Tosfos asks a very interesting question. We know the Gemara in Ksubas Kuf Dalet says that Gemara over there, the sugi where Rebbe passed away. Right before Rebbe passed away, it says that Rebbe picked up Esretz Ba'osav, his 10 fingers, and he said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you know that Lo nehenem min ha'olam afilu be'etz baktana. I never had a no from this world afilu be'etz baktana. Asks Tosfos, how could the Gemara say that the godless of Rebbe was that he had chazeres, he had kishus, he had snoin, all this food on his table? Rebbe never touched it. Rebbe never ate. You think Rebbe indulged in restaurants and good food? That wasn't Rebbe's day. Rebbe said it himself. He never had enough in this world. So what is this Gemara? What is the Gemara talking about? That's Tosfos Kasha.
Didn't he have a golden table?
No, but
golden table.
He had a whole.
He had a gold.
Came out from Shemayim?
No, from his ceiling. There was
I didn't know that. No, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Amazing. What did you say?
I doesn't say he ate
Says Tosfos in the last words. Top Tosfos. He had it for other people. Of course, the Rebbe himself didn't have it. Avodah Rebbe himself didn't benefit from it. But he didn't. So other terutzim, some say that even though Rebbe did have it, someone say Rebbe, of course, did have the chazeres, kishus, it's 9, but Rebbe ate it completely l'shem shemayim. Yeah, it's like when he's sitting at the Shabbos table eating a good piece of chutney, saying l'kuvet Shabbos kodesh. Yeah, we only hope that we're honest with ourselves, right? I always feel uncomfortable saying it because I love it. It's so delicious. I say l'kuvet Shabbos kodesh. Who am I lying to? Myself? My kids? They don't believe. They know the truth. So, like, what should I tell you? So Avada, Rebbe himself was able to say it because he Avada meant it. He meant it all the way. There you go. It's exactly what we're saying. That's right. Rebbe Taka did it for that reason. Asks the Gemara, V'atana debei Rabbi Shmuel, Lama nikra shman kishuin, mipnei shem koshen legufei shel odom kacharovas. How can you say kishuin? Right, what are kishuin again?
Zucchini.
Cucumbers. Okay, how can you say it's healthy? Rabbi Shmuel said it's not healthy. Like kasha haba, ravri haba zutri, different type of cucumbers. Very large ones. Yeah. Kishuim ktanim.
The small ones are.
Small ones are healthier, I think. Yeah. Okay, Zug Gemara weiter. Yoim Aleida v'Yoim Misa. We said that one of the festivals that the Goyim do when they serve Avodah Zarah is when on the birthday of their president, prime minister, or Caesar, and the yahrzeit Yoim Misa of the that's one of the holidays, one of the festivals. You're not allowed to do business with them 3 days before.
Flag
Flag
Day.
Day.
Flag Day was Trump's birthday.
Trump's birthday. First time. Was it the first time in American history they celebrated a president's birthday? I think so, right? Had a whole.
President's Day.
No, Truman.
No, President's Day is not for the birthdays.
George Washington.
Oh yeah, okay, maybe yeah.
They combine them all together for commercial purposes.
Okay. Ooh ah. Okay, you get just in time for this Gemara. The birthday and the yahrzeit of kings. These are special festivals that Avodah Zarah is served That's why you can't do business 3 days before. Asks the Gemara, so Machlekes Rabbeinu Chachamim, whether it needs to be sreifa on the Yom HaMisa, which means like this. It's not every time that a king dies that they celebrate and have a holiday or a festival. It's only when the king who dies, they burn all of his chafetzim, all of his belongings. Thank you. So that's the only time where it's a holiday there, serve Avodah Zarah, and you can't do business them 3 days prior. Mechlal asks the Gemara, the Rabbi Meir savar lo yishna misa sheyesh b'sreifa v'lo yishna misa sheyesh b'sreifa. Right, Rabbi Meir says even if they don't burn his belongings, it's also a holiday which you can't serve with the serve Avodah Zarah. You can't do business with them.
Why they don't like the king?
Oh, so in other words, anytime a king dies, why? Because why do a festival when the king dies?
No, I'm saying why do they burn his stuff? Is it because they don't like him?
No, the opposite. To honor him, to say nobody can use the king's stuff. He was so important that nobody gets to use it once he dies. Nobody's worthy enough to use it. It's like a museum, exactly.
In a museum.
Like in a
Are they
museum.
burning it?
A museum, I guess, is using it. Like you're, like people are having benefit from it. Like it's like, no, this is mamish off limits.
Do they burn him along with it?
No, he's dead.
No, but
he died.
Do they burn him? Do they burn his body?
Okay, depends if you're in Egypt. It depends where you are. I mean, they mummify him or whatever they do.
The pyramids in Egypt is the tombs.
It doesn't say they burn him. No.
What type of room though?
Yeah, Rome. Yeah, they don't burn him.
They don't say that.
They don't burn him?
No.
No, I don't think they burn him.
Very like the Roman
They
thing
don't.
to burn them.
So Rabbi Meir says, "Lo yishna misa sheyesh b'sreifa, v'lo yishna misa sheyesh b'sreifa." It doesn't matter what kind of king it is, whether they burn his belongings, they don't burn his belongings. The festival that they make on the day the king dies is a festival that they serve Avodah Zarah on, and that's why you can't do business with them 3 days prior to that. Gemara says, Alma, Sreifa lav chukahi. Sreifa is not part of the process, the ceremony of serving Avodah Zarah. Mechlal de Rabbana Sabri Sreifa chukahi. Must be the Chachamim who argue and Rabbi Meir say that it's only when a king dies and you burn his belongings that it's usher to do business with them 3 days prior to that. Why? Because the burning is part of the ceremony of serving Avodah Zarah. It's an integral part of the service of Avodah Zarah. Ask the Gemara, could you really say that according to the Chachamim that Sreifa is part of the ceremony of serving Avodah Zarah? Tanya, Surfin ala Malachim. It says that the Sefta in Shabbos, it says that even when a Jewish king dies, you're allowed to burn his belongings after he dies. Why? It's kavod HaMelech, to show how important this king was to Klal Yisrael, and nobody could use. It's like nobody could sit in his chair. Nobody can use his belongings. So Mamela, must be that if you're allowed to do it to a Jewish king, must be that this is not something that is part of the service of Avodah Zarah. Because if it's part of the service of Avodah Zarah, you wouldn't be allowed to do it for a Jewish king. If it's part of the service of Avodah Zarah, how can we do it? We're not allowed to do what the Goyim do. If the Goyim do it as part and parcel, an integral part of serving Avodah Zarah, then how can you do it for a Jewish king? That's the kasha on the Rabbanan. Says the Gemara, "L'kul alma sreifa lav chuki." Must be that sreifa is not part of the service of Avodah Zarah. Huh?
Who did we do it to?
Who did we do it to? It's a good kasha. In other words, practically speaking, who do we do it to? It says you're allowed to do it. I'm not sure you did it to. It could be that there was a king they did it to. Maybe we'll see soon in the Gemara. I don't know. But from the fact that it's mutter to do it, that tells you everything. It tells you that it's not part of Avodah Zarah service. The Gemara says no. Even the Chachamim will hold that it's only by Goyim who burn the belongings of their king that you're not allowed to do business with them. It's not because it's part and parcel of Avodah Zarah. It has nothing to do with Avodah Zarah. It's a show of respect. Whatever the day is that the king dies, that yard site, I guess when they commemorate that day, that becomes a holiday and they serve Avodah Zarah. That's why it doesn't matter whether they burned the belongings, didn't burn his belongings, you can't do business with them. No. If you burn the king's belonging, that's a sign that the king is so important that they're going to do a holiday, they're going to make a festival out of it, and they're going to serve Avodah Zarah. But really, nobody believes and nobody holds that the Sreifa, burning their belongings, part of the ceremony of serving Avodah Zarah. Gemara says, Gufa, Surfin ala Malachim. You're allowed to burn, wow, it's very interesting. You're allowed to burn the stuff of a Jewish king. The belongings of a Jewish king. It's a show of respect. Ve'ein b'mishim darchei hamoish, never b'sholem tomois, uve'misrafos aveisecho hamalachim. So Yirmiyahu Hanavi promised Tzidkiyahu Melech Yehuda that you're going to die b'shalom, right? Before Bavel conquers Yerushalayim and Eretz Yisrael. And they're going to burn all your belongings as a show of respect. So, okay, so you asked me, Isaac, I said, which king? It seems like Tzidkiyahu. Kashem shesorfen al malachim, kach sorfen al nasiim, even if it's a Rosh Sanhedrin. Umohem sorfen al malachim, what belongings do they burn? Mitasa on their bed, ukleit tashmishan, and whatever they used. Omaisa, there's actually a story, not just a king. Shemeis Reb Gamliel Hazakin, v'saraf olav unkelas hager shivim monatsuri, and unkelas hager burned shivim monat. So at this point, the Gemara believes that it's just dollars. He basically took shivim monatsuri, like imagine taking like a wad of $100 bills and throwing it into a fire as a sign of respect because Reb Gamliel died. The Gemara says, "Amrit man surfing alei matasa klei tashmishan." How is it allowed to burn money? Yeah, you only burned the bed and whatever he used, but not money itself. Gemara says, "Eima b'shivim monatzari." So now, the emes is, the truth is, Reb Shol just mentioned baltashchis. It's a big kasha. How are you allowed to burn stuff? Yeah, mita, it's usable. Yeah, we know we have an isser baltashchis. You're not allowed to just burn stuff and ruin for no reason. And the simple answer is, there's no baltashchis because baltashchis means there's no reason. But here, there is a reason. The reason is because that is a show of respect. That's the way you show respect. So if it's like nobody's going to say you can't shecht an animal, baltashchis. What do you mean? I'm shechting an animal to eat it, right? So I have usage out of it. I have a purpose, right? So here too, there's a purpose when what? When you take the belongings of a Melech Yisrael and you show everybody, right? Because the Melech Yisrael represents the entire Klal Yisrael, that he was on a different level, and that itself is a usage. There's no baltashchis. Gemara says, Amida Achwin Aloi asks the Gemara of Atanya, Oikrin ala malachim. You're allowed to cut the hooves of an animal. Mishim kvoidim shemachim. Al malachim means Oikrin the gidim. The gidim. You're allowed to pull out the veins. The what? The tendons out from the.
We're not going to be able to use it.
So you can't use it. Meaning any behemoth that the king used, you're able to kind of put it out of use. Yeah. So how do you do that? Oikrin ala malachim. Ve'ein ba b'shem darchei hamoiri. There's no darchei hamoiri. By the way, so once this. Oh, excellent question. Tosfos kasha. See? So Mo's asking tsar b'lechayim. What happened to tsar b'lechayim? So baltashchis we answer. There's no baltashchis because there's a purpose. But tsar b'lechayim? What are you going to tsar b'lechayim?
They're killing him. They're killing the animal.
But they're causing a pain.
For the rest of his life.
Yeah, it can't just. Yeah, so take a look at the last line in Tosfos, Oikrin ala malachim.
Was it a kosher animal?
Oh, very good question. Tzar b'lechayim is even for not kosher animals.
No, I'm saying.
Okay, we'll talk about it in a second. Excellent. Isaac, you're right on the ball. Next line of the Gemara. But Tosfos answers, V'yesh shloimar. I don't know if you see it. Last line of Tosfos Oikrin. Deshani kavod HaMelech, shu kavod l'chol Yisrael. He represents all of Am Yisrael. V'osi kavod rabim, v'dochi tzar b'lechayim. The kavod rabim of God's life pushes away the lav, the asay of Tzoyin Tosam Alech Melech, honor a king, right? Especially a king that represents all of Am Yisrael. That can push away essay, I guess doicha loisesi. Sort of that concept. We're talking about Eretz Yisrael. There's only Jews right now. We're talking about Yidden.
Like King David's horse, example.
Oh, Omer Rav Papa. So Rav Papa said, you asked Isaac, it's a kosher animal or not. Gemara says, Sus Shiruchav Allah. Which animal are we talking about? A horse. The horse that the king rode on during his lifetime, that you can basically you can put it out of service. Ubehemet tahira loy. Ask the Gemara, what? Only a sus that's a behemet meya? Behemet tahira loy? Vatanya ikar sheyesh batreifa asur. You're not allowed to put it out of service by making it into a treifa. Yeah, you can only do something that doesn't make it into a treifa. What's a treifa? Treifa means you basically remove an aver, a part of the animal, that's going to jeopardize the existence of the animal, the livelihood of the animal for the next 12 months. He's going to die. Yeah, he's going to die as a result. Gemara says you're not allowed to do that, right? Which means you have to do something which doesn't make it into a treifa. Why? Because if it's not a treifa, you could still have some sort of use, I guess. Maybe you could checht it. It's behemoth tahira. Yeah. Gemara says she'ein b'treifa mutter ve'ezi ikar she'ein b'treifa. Gemara says menashe parsasem and akuv lamata. Whatever you do to the hooves. So the Gemara says, Vice Tois, we're not talking about just a Behemoth Tamei, because if you're dealing with Treifa, don't make it into a Treifa. Vice Tois, you're dealing with Behemoth Tahira. Whereas a Tirka Bar Papa Egla Mashachas Bekrain. Truth is, even a Behemoth Tahira. So how's a Behemoth Tahira serve a king? Are you only allowed to do something which serve the king? So a sus served the king because the king rode on the horse. But how did the king use an animal like a parah or a shar?
Carriage.
Carriage, is it pulled his wagon, his carriage. Very nice. Says the Gemara, weiter, back of the wagon of the Baal Shem Tov. I love it. Beautiful. Oh, that's gewalt. Thank you for that.
Only Pesach
King
can
David
come
did
up
this. David Melech did this.
What did he do?
He hamstringed the horses, right? When he defeated Avodah Zarah.
Yeah, he made them non-usable.
Right? Avzova.
Go ahead, yeah, please.
Yeah, no, I just looked it up. I remembered it. I looked it up. Right? He hamstringed the horses, right? But because he couldn't have too many horses, so he by Torah law, he's not allowed to have too many horses.
Yes, the Yarbale Susim.
But he won them in battle. Right?
So what did he do?
He hamstringed them.
Oh, he put him out of service. Like he
Put him
couldn't.
Cut the
He can't have horses.
Achilles heel.
He gives it to
I
people.
see.
Yeah, but he hamstringed the animals.
So in other words, and very interesting.
He didn't make them tumble.
this is the.
He didn't make him treifa. Right,
Right,
right, yeah.
straight.
Yeah.
Well, there's no horse.
It's already tell me. It's Behemoth Tamei, but he didn't make him a treifa. Right. Very interesting. Yeah.
Gemara by Rabbeinu Kodesh wanted to invite Pinchas Ben Yair to his house, and he didn't want to come because he had white horses.
And what's wrong with white horses?
And Rabbeinu Kodesh, because they're dangerous. Rabbeinu Kodesh said he hamstringed them, so they're not dangerous anymore.
Because he had a danger in his house.
He had
You're not allowed to have a.
So he didn't want to come to his house.
Beautiful. See, that's why it's worth listening to this year, because mi beinenu, all of Shas is mentioned. Everybody's contributing in a beautiful way. Okay, so the Gemara weiter. Yom Teglach HaZakana, another example of a festival that Goyim
He
made
has the shuas.
is when they, which one?
He had shuas.
Of what? Which
The
part?
back of the head.
The back of the head where they
With the
leave,
hair, yeah.
they leave the
Yeah,
hair,
yeah.
the ponytail. Very good. So we have like this. The Amish, okay, what about the Amish? Yeah, when they get a haircut, their beard, so for them it's a festival. I'm not sure why, but that's when they get I guess Pesach in those days would have a field day. No pun intended, huh? What?
Amish do not use electricity.
They do not use electricity. Yeah, good for them. Okay. They have iPhones? No iPhones?
Kosher phone.
Kosher phone.
Tag. It's all tag.
They learn the Bible, the old Bible, and they all eat from one dish.
Old Testament.
Very interesting. Okay, I always wondered if they're from the Seres Hashvatim. I'm not sure. Okay, fine. Yom Teglach HaZakonai. They have, I guess they get a beard cut, it's called, right? Ubleirisoi. Or when the haircut with a ponytail, then that's a festival for them, and you're not allowed to do business, at least on that day for sure, because they go and serve their Avodah Zarah. Iboilu. Ask the Gemara, Heichik Tani. When the Mishnah says, Yom Teglach HaZakonai, a beard cut and a haircut, which means the ponytail, so Gemara says, Yom Teglach HaZakonai v'anochas b'larisai, Dilma Yom Teglach HaZakonai v'avoras b'larisai. Gemara says, does it mean, with the haircut is very interesting. What they did was,
It's a mullet.
they left, when they got a haircut, they left the ponytail the whole year, right? And then once a year, they would cut the ponytail, and they would bring it to Avodah Zarah, and that's when they would make a festival. They would serve their Avodah Zarah with it.
This was a whole discussion with the Whigs
Right.
in India.
Why? Because they would use it for Avodah Zarah.
There was a discussion, different opinions,
Very interesting.
and concluded it's not about it.
Interesting. Very interesting. But this is the custom. They had this custom. So once a year, they have a haircut let's say every couple of weeks. They would leave the ponytail, and once a year they cut it and bring it to Rabbi Zarah. So Gemara says, I guess the Mishnah is bothered. Gemara's bothered now. If you mention Teglach HaZakonai, the regular haircut, the beard cut, and the ponytail, it never happened on the same day, right? Because the blarisai, the ponytail only happened once a year. Teglach HaZakonai happened every couple of weeks. So when the Mishnah mentions them, clumps them together, right? So what does that mean? Does it mean Yom Teglach HaZakonai, and he left over the ponytail for that once a year festival? Or it means Yom Teglach HaZakonai, v'havoras b'larisai. We're talking about two separate holidays, right? One is when he cut his beard, and one is when he cut the bloiris. That's what Doctor just said. Yeah. Toshama, the Tanya Tervayu. We learned both. Yom Teglach HaZakonai. If you get a beard cut, that's one festival. You have to refrain from doing business with them because they serve Avodah Zarah. And Yom Tiglach is Kodev, Avaras Blarisoy, means also even Avaras Blarisoy when you cut that ponytail. Omer Avidam Shmuel, we'll finish with one Gemara. Oida Cheres Yeshlam Beroimi. There's one more festival in Rome. Achas L'Shiv Mishana, Mavin Odem Shalom. Once every 70 years they bring a person who's complete. Umarkiven Oisoy Al Odem Chiger. And you put him on top, right? You put the complete person, strong person, muscles, who's Keneged Esav. And you put a Chiger, somebody who limps, somebody who's missing a leg. You put him on top of this Roman warrior, and the Chiger represents Yaakov. Yaakov was somebody who limped, right? Because he was hit by the Malach. So he says, Malbishan oisay bigde Adam Arishan. And your Malbish, the top guy, bigde Adam Arishan. I'm not sure if it means Adam Arishan Mamish, because we know Nimrod had the Gadam Adam Arishan, and then Esav had it, right? Yaakov put it on when he stole the brachas. So we have the Adam Arishan. You put the skin of Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol, was the Asar Ruga Malchus, and they skinned him. The Roman emperor skinned him and killed him. So they saved, because his daughter wanted to marry him, and they didn't want to keep him alive, so they basically took off the skin, and they put it on top again of this guy on top. And you put around his neck this beautiful necklace that was very expensive, of beautiful stones, and you cover with petals, whatever, beautiful stones, these streets. And basically it's a mashal for Yaakov Avinu, who stole the brachas, who was a trickster. And they are basically once every 70 years. Why once every 70 years? The Mefarshim say because every 70 years the Romans are afraid that Hashem is going to take us out of Galus. So just like Achashverosh made a party at the end of 70 years by Bavel, saying Hashem is never going to redeem us. So once every 70 years in the Roman Empire, they used to have this unique holiday where they would celebrate the fact that the Jews didn't come out of Galus yet. Why? Because Yaakov is really wrong. From that, you see that Yaakov was the trickster, he was the slickster, he was the sneaky guy, he was the thief. And at the end, he says, in the end they said, Oy vavoy, when Yaakov overpowers Esav, oy vavoy, we don't want to be alive for that time. Right now we'll celebrate. But there's going to be a time. They have another 70 years, because they beat the whatchamacallit. So the Gemara says, Omer Avashi Chshil and Pinal L'Rishayim.
Then you.
Okay, we'll stop over here, Mr. We gotta go to